everyone. This is the Barbara Christensen VlogCast, and welcome. I am so glad to have you here listening to me today. Today, I wanted to talk about something that I've talked a lot about in the past and online, but I'm always learning something more. So what I want to talk about today is a genetic defect that is called MTHFR. And I have associated MTHFR with a lot of people. I've had them tested, and they've come back as being correct that they have the genetic mutation. Some have double mutations. And I always associated that with being with your folic acid. So what happens with MTHFR with folic acid is that your body doesn't metabolize folic properly, and so you have to have the methylated folate instead of the folic acid. Now, I'm pretty sure that I have it. I haven't been tested yet. I plan on getting tested here in the next few months. And the reason being is that I know that when I take a B complex that has folic acid rather than the methylated folate, I get this crazy major anxiety issue. My body just cannot take it. And I think that everyone, probably it's different how their body might react depending on what defect they have. And I believe there's like 50 different varieties of these gene mutations that you can have that are considered to be part of the MTHFR gene and defect. So it impacts the woman's ability to carry a pregnancy to term. There's a big study about how it impacts the chromosomes, the DNA of your embryo. And so they believe that that's a big link in the autism and Asperger's, all of that syndrome. And it has, with men, it often is connected also with the male fertility. And, people don't understand that, but it really could have this influence on men. And so if you think about it, folate is required for the conversion of a specific amino acid called homocysteine into another amino acid called methionine. And that's really important for building up our proteins. And so I've had women that have come to me that I've had them go get tested because I've seen like the symptoms of the PCOS and the miscarriages, along with the cardiovascular disease and the stroke. That's all very much a part of it, but it also has a huge link to Alzheimer's. So I think that it's really interesting that most women that I've talked to have never heard of it, and yet they believe that 50% of the population cannot properly methylate folic acid. So why are we talking about it? It's a really easy thing just to test your homocysteine levels in the blood. A very simple thing for them to do a genetic test. And then you can get on a methylfolate. You may also need to do some additional supplemental changes depending. Lack of folic acid can cause clotting problems. And so if you think about that, so you're thinking about miscarriages, and you're thinking about all of the blood vessels that are in the uterus. And so you could have a clot that doesn't harm you, but that clot could cut off the blood supply to the embryo or fetus. And this can cause implantation problems. It can cause stillbirths. So it's really something that I just think that all women should be tested for this. I think it's something that you need to know if you're planning on having any children. And think about for your child. So do you want to know if you're feeding them something that's going to cause them harm later in life? Are you giving them a multivitamin with ingredients that they can't use in their system? And so, a lot of women that have this, they take baby aspirin as a blood thinner. I take curcumin, which is a turmeric extract, because doctor told me once that I was probably allergic to aspirin, so I don't take that. If they're very serious, they might have to take like a heparin or another anti-clotting medication. They often ask that they avoid laughing gas. Laughing gas uses up B12 and can cause severe problems and even death in people with this disorder. And so if you think about that, I sent a friend to get tested, and she tested herself and her husband did come back with the folic acid MTHFR deficiency mutation. But she came back with the MTHFR B12. And I had not connected. I knew that because of the nitrous oxide, I knew that there was a B12 connection, but I didn't put it together until we were talking. Now, B12 deficiency also affects about 40% of people over 60 years of age. And so, that's some normal aging and whatnot. But they just did a research study at Tufts University, and they determined that 40% of people between the ages of 26 and 83 have plasma B12 levels in the low normal range. Now, that's a range where you can start experiencing some of the neurological symptoms, and again, it's something that we're not talking about. So if you can't metabolize the B12, then you have to find, again, the methylated B12 supplement. And they found that in Japan and Europe, the lower limits for B12 is like, I think, 500 parts or whatever it is, PG per milliliter. And they think that the acceptance of higher levels as normal explains the low rates of Alzheimer's and dementia over there. And here in the U.S., what we consider to be normal is so much lower, and B12 has such an impact on neurological. And so, again, think about the cost. Think about the cost of nursing homes and, Alzheimer's, all of these things that could be helped and perhaps prevented by just taking the right vitamins. It's so crazy to me. So that's part of why I was so insistent on, I'm trying to figure out why my daughter has low iron. Because I have anemia and B12 deficiency, that's part of the final stages of anemia. Well, my daughter eats plenty of meat, and she is anemic. And when I asked her pediatrician was like, oh, well, there's lots of reasons. Could have just been dehydrated. It's not a big deal. Just, give her, 350 milligrams of this really harsh iron that's going to be really hard on her stomach when she has stomach issues. It'll be okay. What? Really? That's your answer. That's our medical answer, our doctor's answer to what's wrong with this child. Now, why do you think B12 deficiency is so common? Well, we've got this, this issue where we're having the epigenetics. We have a lot of leaky gut issues. We have a lot of low stomach acid, autoimmune issues, lots of more medications than we've ever seen, especially in the acid-suppressing drugs. A lot of alcohol, and then, of course, there's the exposure to the nitrous oxide. And so even people often say, well, how come, I'm a meat eater or I'm low on B12 and not vegan, it's fine. Well, this B12 deficiency can occur in anyone, including someone who's eating large amounts of B12 containing animal products. And they believe that this deficiency is the second oldest gene mutation, that it goes back to, I don't know what this phone is doing. It goes back to 11,600 BC as the second oldest human disease mutation discovered. And they found the mutation in people of Arabic, Turkish, and Jewish ancestry. And so this mutation is often found in different ethnic populations. But they believe that it originated in this single prehistoric individual and was passed down to their descendants and so on. It's a founder mutation. And so the only mutation they believe to be older is a mutation seen in cystic fibrosis that arose between 1,000 and 52,000 years ago. That's a large gap. Isn't that funny that they can't narrow it down a little bit more? And it occurs in children with the two mutated copies of AMN and CUBN genes. And so it's the IGS, this one that I'm talking about, the B12. And the B12, it can't be absorbed in the small intestine, which results in this deficiency. So, if you have this, especially as a child, then you have a higher risk of infection, fatigue, attention deficit, and so it's important, again, to know what's going on in our systems, what's going on in our bodies. They've done a huge bunch of testing, and they found that there's this huge association, which I did not know until I started looking at the research for my friend, of this B12 MTHFR defect and a child's spatial ability, their short-term memory. So why is this? Why is it that we have teachers pulling their hair out, trying to conquer the task of educating children, and parents like myself who said, enough, I'm educating my child, and we're not telling them, hey, you need to have them tested. We're so afraid of genetic testing because the genetic test might tell you that you are more susceptible to something, and then what happens to your insurance. And that's a whole other story. But these are things that are diagnosed really easy. I mean, a B12 test, you can get a test, even if you don't have insurance, you can get a test yourself for like $60. So I don't understand why you wouldn't do that. I mean, especially if you have any sort of chronic inflammation or gut disorders, especially like Crohn's disease, small bowel, anything that's going to impair the absorption for your lifetime, you're probably going to be deficient, and you're going to have B12 injections. You're not even going to be able to take the right supplementation. So you really need to, find out and discuss with your physician and, come up with a plan. They're even working with doing nasal administration of B12. And although they still recommend the injections, it'll be interesting to see how all of that, comes to pass as we develop more technology and figure these things out a little bit more. They found that in Japanese studies that using this methylated B12 is far superior for the neurological diseases. It is absorbed better because it can bypass some of the potential problems that they found with the B12 absorption cycle. And so maybe even if you're not getting tested for that and you're having this like mental fatigue, instead of saying it's just a mommy moment or I'm just getting older, you may just want to change the type of B12 that you're taking. It could be as easy as that, and see how that works for you, how that plays out. They found, besides this, they found like 5 more genetic variants that are associated with Alzheimer's. And they analyzed DNA from more than 50,000 people of European ancestry. And I mean, isn't that interesting that, again, we are not moving towards more genetic testing to make sure that we are healthy. Instead, we're waiting for the problems to happen and then trying to deal with them. I mean, so one of the variants, if a person inherited that from one parent, then their risk is 2 to 4 times higher than the average person. If they inherited it from both parents, then their risk goes up to 10 times greater than the average person to have Alzheimer's. That doesn't mean you're going to develop it. But what that means is that you need to think about your health in a brain-supporting manner. They've had gene studies where they've looked at the biological pathways involved in the immune system and with the transport of cholesterol-related molecules in disease. But these studies that they're coming out with now, they really are helping to fill in some of these gaps of our understanding of disease, and especially disease related to the brain, because we know so little about the brain. It's really a sad thing to see someone go through, even just caring for someone they love with Alzheimer's. I've seen it happen so many times with, friends of my mother's, my friends, their parents, and they just keep doing more genotyping, and we keep finding more evidence, and we should be using that. I don't see why we're not doing more and talking more about methylation when it's such a huge impact on everything that's going on around us. If you could take the right methylated vitamin sources and lessen your risk of having a child that has problems, or just having a child, period, wouldn't you want to do that? So, I don't know. I find it pretty crazy that, we're not embracing this and taking on some changes. So anyway, that's today's topic. I just wanted to talk a little bit. Get out there and do some Googling on MTHFR. Check it out if you've had any sort of issues. Make sure if you've got any chronic inflammation that you're looking at both checking on whether or not you have a folic acid deficiency. Make sure if you're having especially a B12 deficiency, that's now high on my radar. And then just, live your best life. That's what this is all about. All of this health stuff, all of this anti-aging, all of this cleaning the chemicals out of your life, it's all live your best life. It's not supposed to be a hardship on you, and it shouldn't be a hardship on you. It should just be something that you can do and enjoy and feel better. I mean, don't you want to feel better? I know I love the moments where I notice that I just feel better. Feeling better rocks. That's all I have to say. So you can find me, Barbara Christensen, online on Twitter. I'm BijAGirl. That's BIJAGIRL. You can find me on Facebook at Love Barbara Christensen. If you are interested in paleo diets as a pescatarian, vegetarian, or as a vegan, I am at facebook.com, PaleoVegio. And so I would love to connect. I'd love to hear your comments. Let me know if you've had any issues or if you've been tested and how your life has changed from changing over to the methylated vitamins. And, let me know what you would like me to discuss. So this is the Barbara Christensen VlogCast, and I hope you guys have an awesome day. See you later.